What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to discuss exactly how you should be training to become the most explosive, powerful athlete that you can be. We're also going to have a bit of a chat about what power even is when it comes to physical qualities, because having a really solid definition of it is then going to give us a better idea of how we can go about training it and developing it as a physical quality. Now, power as a physical quality or a form of training isn't necessarily as vague as something like functional training, but I do think it's quite comparable to the way that the general population will always say things like, oh, I want to be a little bit more toned. That's like the equivalent of an athlete who wants to be a little bit more powerful. Because in the same way that a personal trainer understands that when a layperson says that they want to be more toned, what they're really asking for is just to have a little bit more muscle mass and a little bit less fat on them. Every good strength and conditioning coach or athlete who handles their own training needs to understand that being more powerful is an emergent physical quality off the back of being stronger and faster. So the easiest way to start wrapping your head around this concept is to look at physical qualities the same way that we look at colors, or even primary colors and then secondary colors that emerge off the back of different combinations of these primary colors. And so depending on if you're dealing with, I think, pigment or light, there's three primary colors. You've got red, yellow, blue, or red, green, and blue. And now when it comes to physical qualities, there's definitely more than three baseline primary physical qualities, but there's definitely a lot less than what a lot of strength coaches out there would have you believe. We have strength, speed, endurance, flexibility. So I guess that's four, so that's only one more. So hopefully what you're realizing now is that you can ignore a majority of the force velocity curve, which was always bastardized in its application to training. But yeah, speed, one end of the spectrum, strength, other end of the spectrum. As long as you're satisfying those, the middle will take care of itself. Now, if you are a coach yourself and you want to improve your understanding and your application of these training principles that help develop these primary and secondary physical qualities, check out the links for my courses down below. If you're an athlete and you would like some help developing your own training plan so you can implement some of these concepts in your own training, there's a form down below where you can apply for coaching. Another second tier emergent quality that comes up a lot is something like muscular endurance, which is really just a combination of endurance and strength, which can be developed completely separately, but will still end up with this muscular endurance physical quality. And this isn't to say that all muscular endurance training is a waste of time. If that's like the sort of if that's the central physical quality that underpins your sport, I mean, it's sort of weird because you should be doing a lot of sport and that should be developing a lot of your muscular endurance, but maybe you need more muscular endurance and you're getting overuse injuries from your sport. So other forms of muscular endurance training might actually be beneficial to you. But ultimately, the majority of your development, especially from a strength and conditioning perspective, not just a practicing your sport perspective, will just come from biasing the raw physical qualities that make it up. And this is just why we don't end up doing that much sport-specific training when it comes to our strength and conditioning here at General Physical Preparation, because it's so rare that it doesn't end up sort of no man's land or this weird middle ground for training. Most athletes, when they need more specificity, they're just not playing enough of their sport unless you're at the elite of the elite and you've spent so much time also bringing up these general qualities. They are the rare exception where they may need more specific forms of S&C, but these are people with years and years of development that are already maximizing their sports practice. Another interesting point to consider is, what does an athlete that lacks power really look like, and do we even see it out in the wild? Because I definitely see athletes who aren't strong enough for their sport. I definitely see athletes who aren't quick enough for their sport. I'm not sure exactly what an athlete who's not powerful enough for their sport even looks like. I guess if you like both of those qualities, you need to work on your power, but we still go back to that, well, okay, what's it made up of? Okay, back to strength development, back to speed development. So until you are absolutely at an advanced level of strength and an advanced level of speed, I can't really confidently tell you that power training is something that you should be emphasizing in your weekly S&C plan. Having said that, especially if you watch a lot of my training content, you'll notice that I'm a really big fan of the Olympic lifts, and that's just because I like them subjectively. So I don't optimize every single aspect of my training, and to me, power training like the Olympic lifts or loaded jumps or other ballistic variations, for me, what they are is they're good enough forms of strength training and they're good enough forms of speed training. There's just something really fun about throwing barbells and throwing med balls around the gym. You also just run into gutless individuals who they don't have any grunt about them, even with strength training or any of their speed work. So a lot of ballistic variations, they can just sort of be the sweet spot for just developing that. There's a word I want to use here, CUNT. It's also tremendous just for giving off S&C vibes. So I'm really critical of, functional training, a lot of contrast training that people do, because to me, it's just performative S&C. But I think it's okay to lean into performative forms of S&C as long as you're just honest about why you're doing it. So sometimes I'll do some floating heel work with my runners because they're like, oh yeah, more specific to running. So as long as you're not completely misleading people and you're just letting people lean into productive forms of training that still fit their needs, I think this is all okay. But it is important to just be honest about what people really need to be focusing on with their training, or have a theoretical conversation about what's optimal. And so it's different for every individual and every different sporting goal, but just for some general guidelines I'll give you to tell whether you're an advanced level of strength or speed development. So if you're a male under 200 pounds, at least 2.5 times back squat, 3 times body weight deadlift, 3.5 to 4 times body weight if it's this high handle trap bar nonsense. Bench press, advanced, should be getting close to double body weight. And I guess honestly, as you start to get heavier, it's not that those standards start to change, but they do get a little bit harder to pursue. It's just going to be hard to maintain your speed when you're getting up around above 100 kilos or well above 100 kilos. And if you're above 200 pounds, I don't have any specific body weight ratios, but if you unrack a max squat, deadlift, or bench and you don't have the whole gym sort of staring at you with their mouth open, then you're not an advanced level of strength for your size. For women, under 75-ish kilos, again, double body weight squat I think is pretty solid, at least a double body weight deadlift, 1.5 times body weight bench. For males, I think you should be getting close to 11 meters a second for your max velocity to be considered anywhere near advanced. I would be honestly happy to bump that a little bit higher. And then for women, probably anything getting close to 10 meters a second is getting pretty damn quick. 99.9% of athletes are not meeting those general baseline physical qualities. So the majority of your power development is just going to come from getting stronger and getting quicker. Yes, you will need specific forms of power training, like the Olympic lifts if you're an Olympic lifter. But outside of that, again, you're just going to get all your specific power development from your sport, or at least the good majority of it, please. And now there has been a lot of recent conversation online about how important specific forms of power training can be for more advanced athletes. But in my opinion, it's not really a training specificity thing so much as it is more of a load management tool when it's applied practically. So going back to what I was talking about, where the Olympic lifts or a lot of forms of power training, it's good enough strength training and it's good enough speed training. So especially with athletes who are trying to maximize speed, explosivity, strength training, the downside of it's really amazing in terms of physical qualities it produces, but there can be this huge acute fatigue cost. And so what some advanced athletes can do is they can substitute a lot of their slower strength training for power training. And even though the power training isn't going to increase their strength, it does a phenomenal job of maintaining their strength, and it doesn't necessarily beat them up as much or create as much fatigue as the higher doses of strength training that they might have needed to keep pushing up their squat, keep pushing up their deadlift and their bench. But even for advanced athletes, I don't consider this necessary, because at the end of the day, you could just run a much more conservative maintenance dose of strength training. But you can kind of pick your path there. You can go off the strength training if you want to break from it, do some power training. It's going to reduce the fatigue. It's going to help you perform a little bit more of a temporary explosive shift in your training. So yeah, I'm still skeptical about the absolute need for advanced athletes to be doing more power training as part of their general development in their S&C. I still think the polarized approach is highly effective for them. It's just that your options open up a little bit. I guess in practice, what I do doesn't really change from beginner to advanced, because if beginners want to do some power training, I give it to them anyway, because like I said, it's still good enough. Some of you will probably feel like I just went around in circles the whole time here. Others, hopefully, will get some really nice practical takeaways from that. I guess to summarize my thoughts, I do think that power training is something that's drastically overrated, I guess at every stage of your athletic development. Focus on your primary physical qualities. That's where most of the money is made. Again, if you like the way I talk about these physical qualities, check out the courses down below. Got a few slots open for one-to-one coaching as well. So if you're interested in that, got the form for that down below as well. Also got a free plyometric program. I don't have a free speed program, but I'll see you guys in a couple of days with another video.